It's me, Sam, and this is By Hook or By Needles. And yeah, I won't tell you how many takes this has taken me so far. Going slightly insane. Okay, this is my first make-along. This is a knit-along. This was the second part of my first make-along. I'm doing two make-alongs at the same time. I'm doing a crochet-along and a knit-along. The project is exactly the same. It is a V-shaped scarf, worked lengthways, and I'm using the same yarn, which is the Lion Brand Mandala. There are your stats there for your mandala, and it's in the gnome colorway, and it says it's a 3-weight. Now, to my mind, a light 3 is the same as an 8-ply, which is the same as a DK. That means to me it should be a 4mm needle. This is 3.75. I'm using a 4mm. It also says it's a 5mm hook. With the crochet along portion of this make along, I'm actually using a 4.5. Not that that matters in this video, but I just thought I'd mention it. I'm not using the recommended there, but that's just, yeah. Now, with the, I'm going to do the same as I did with the crochet along, in that with the crochet along, and I will show you because I have it here. With the crochet along, I was making the full sample on video. I started off doing the full sample and, you know, pausing, doing another bit, pausing, and all the rest of it. And found that I had lots of little videos that I needed to join together, and that didn't turn out so good because YouTube, I think, said, we can't find this part, we can't find that part. So instead of making a video with lots of little stages in it, I decided to make just a really short, simple sample. And that is what I'm going to do with the knitted version as well. With the crochet version, I chained 20. I'm going to cast on 20 as well for the knitted project. You will actually need, though, to cast on 201 stitches for the knitted scarf, and then add 3. Why add 3? Well, in the description box, you will find the video link to Perfect Edges, and that explains in there why we add 3 to our project in order to get perfect edges. We need these extra stitches, 2 at the end of our row, 1 at the beginning of our row, to make perfect edges. So you will need to cast on a total of 204. Okay, so that's, if you have never done the perfect edges before, I suggest probably pausing this, going and watching that video, like I say, link in the description box, and then coming back and starting the project with me. Now, cast on 204. You will need 2 stitch markers, one of which I have just dropped, which is highly typical, which is really the way this whole video is going at the moment. Your first stitch marker, you will place this between, counting from the end, hang on, where we, yep, the end row, the end of the row, not the beginning, counting from the end, you will place this between your 102nd stitch and your 103rd stitch. You will then place your second stitch marker, which I dropped on the floor, between the 103rd stitch and the 104th stitch. and then you will work another 100 stitches. Okay, yeah, trust me, it works. Your 103rd stitch becomes effectively your center stitch. We will be doing increases before and after that middle stitch. We won't be doing any increases though for the first, I think it's first 10 rows. For the first 10 or so rows, you will not be using, you can put the stitch markers in, but you won't be needing to increase just because of the nature of the stitch we are going to be using first. Because the first thing we're going to tackle is a ridge like this. And the ridge like this in knitting needs to be done on a straight piece, not a piece with a corner in it. Okay, so like I say, I'm going to start off with 20, but I need an extra 3 for my perfect edges, so that's 23. This is a long tail cast on. You can use any cast on that you like, really. I like the long tail. It has a little bit more stretch and give. There are loads of videos out there to show how to do the long tail cast on in slow motion, and explains a little bit more how it's worked. The reason it's called a long tail cast on is because you have a long tail to your slip stitch and then the yarn to your ball. And that might not actually be long enough. I'll just go a little bit longer. Hardest thing about doing a long tail cast on is knowing exactly how long to have that tail so you don't run short. You hold it sort of like what's called a slingshot grip. And I will just show you briefly how to do the long tail. You go under that one, grab that one, and pull it through. Do that again, under and grab. That's 3, under and grab. Okay, you can slow that down if it will help at all, or perhaps check out another video that will explain it a little bit better. I think Pink Knits, I think she's called Pink Knits. She does a brilliant video tutorials. She does slow motion ones as well. So she goes really slow. She explains every movement and step, and it's really very good. She is worth looking up and yeah, having on your list of people to watch if you're interested in knitting. Okay, so I'm going to cast on 23. Also in the community tab, I will place a photo. Oh, I think I've already said that, but I'll say it again. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 20, 21, 22, 23. So I've still got a very long tail, but that's okay. You will find in the community tab, in the description box, a link to the community tab showing the previous crocheted V-shaped scarf I knitted earlier this year. So just to give you an idea of what I'm actually trying to create here. Okay, so we're going to work 4 rows in garter stitch. Garter stitch means we knit every row. In addition to doing that, knitting every row, we are also going to be doing our perfect edges. Right, if you've watched the video, you know we slip our first stitch purlwise with the yarn in front. Then we go straight into the knit stitch and knit. Now that creates an extra stitch, which is not going to show up very well. me try that again. Okay. So, let's start again. Slip stitch, purlwise, with yarn in front. Normally, if you are knitting like this and you don't want to increase, you would put your yarn in the back to do the knit stitch. But because we do want to increase, we're going to keep it in the front. We're going to knit, and that's going to create a stitch, an extra stitch. And then we go knit straight to the last 2 stitches. At this point, I would knit those 2 together. Try it again. I didn't pick up the threads properly. Nope, still didn't pick it up properly. I've got a thread hanging behind. There we go, that's better. And we'll see, sort of creates a little V, which will become more obvious as we work through. Now, at this point, I would also ask anybody who is new to the channel to subscribe, hit the notification bell, especially if you wish to continue on with the this knit along. If you hit the notification bell, you will get notifications of the new updates that come out. This is part 1. I'm hoping that there'll be a max of 4 parts. There might be a 5th though. Fingers crossed, we'll see. Okay, so that's 1 row of knit. We're doing a second slip 1 stitch purlwise, go into knit, knit 3 stitches, and continue, and knit all the way across. See, now by adding the extra stitch at the beginning, that means when we come to the end, you can see that there's a slip, not a slip stitch, there's a yarn over, which has created an extra stitch so that we can knit 2 together. And that is why you add 3, and that is why it changes. See, now there's 2 at each end, so if you were to count now, you know, the middle stitch would be different. It's, yeah. But it really does turn out pretty, as you will see if you do check out that video, Perfect Edges. Just going to tilt this up a little bit because I keep disappearing to the top of screen. These are not my normal needles. These are not my ChiaoGoo. My ChiaoGoo have a no memory cord. This obviously has a memory. Once again, we knit the stitch we slipped purlwise and the yarn over together. See how annoying it is when you've got a wire with a memory? It just keeps constantly getting in the way. These are Addies, and they are the novel, I think they're called. Novel. Oh, we've got a bit of glare. I'll take it called novel because they're square, and they are supposed to be an ergonomic design for effortless holding and knitting. Yeah, I don't know. They are different. I don't know whether it's just a gimmick because they are square and they've got these little bumps. I sometimes think actually if you had DPNs like that, that would be quite handy because the DPNs might then hold on to those stitches. Okay, slip one purlwise, knit. Don't know, this is our third. So we need one more knit stitch, one more garter stitch out of this. And then we're going to work, I think it's 6 rows in stockinette. Now, stockinette, as some of you may or may not know, is 1 row knit, 1 row purl. Get to the last 2, knit 2 together. Last row. So at this stage, you still should, at this stage, you should still have 204 stitches because we are, if you counted mid-row, you would have 205 because you're adding one at the front and you haven't knitted these two together yet, so you'd end up with 205. But yeah, don't count mid-row. Because you'll only confuse yourself. But then we're doing stockinette next. Which means purling. And I know a lot of people hate purling. I don't mind it. It's just, it's like I guess some people don't like doing certain crochet stitches. I mean, like we all have a favourite crochet stitch, I think. Mine is the half double crochet or the half treble if you're in the UK. Even though I'm going to knit the last 2 together, even though I'm in Australia and we usually follow the UK instructions, I do prefer the US instructions. Just because I think there's just more patterns out there like it, but I like the metric measurements, so yeah, figure that one out. Okay, so we've done our 4 rows of garter stitch. Now we need to do 6 rows of stockinette, and I probably should get a stitch counter for this. So we're going to knit the first row and then purl the second. And when you're purling with and doing perfect edges, it's a little bit different at the beginning of the row, and I'll show you that at the beginning of the next row. Cat, get off my keyboard. Oh, she's been very, very painful today. You're going to come over here. Come on then. Come on. Make a starring appearance. Thank you. Okay. Settle down. All right. No, she says I'm not going to settle down. You'll hear her jump into the... I've got those little trolleys with 3 tiers on them, you know, and I store all my stuff in it, all my crochet and knitting and stitches and books and stitch markers and everything. But I leave the top tier of 2 of the trolleys empty, And the cats actually like to get in there and just lay in there and go to sleep sometimes. Or they look out the window because I've got two of them near the window for them. And they quite enjoy that. And that's where she's gone. She's gone to sit on there and talk to me. Last 2 stitches, knit 2 together. Now, we're going to purl. So that was one. That was our first stockinette stitch. Okay, here's where it gets a little different when we're doing our perfect edges. We still slip one purlwise with a yarn in front, but we're not knitting the next stitch. So if we just went in and purled the next stitch as normal, we would end up with 2 stitches only. We want to end up with 3 because we need those 2 at the end to knit together. So we wrap the yarn around when we're purling, and that creates our extra stitch. Okay, and then we purl across. Now this is a stitch or pattern stitch, whatever, I've never actually done before. So it will be interesting. Oh dear, there goes my fly wire. Not sure if you can hear that. Okay. Now, we do not purl together the last 2 stitches, which is what you would possibly anticipate. No, we put a yarn to the back and we still knit those 2 together, because that's how we get that V. Okay, so that's our second. I'll just show you the beginning of this row one more time. Well, this one time we're doing a knit, so, well, you know, it's not going to be any different to what we're used to. Purl, straight into knit, and that creates an extra stitch. Knit those 2 together. And you can see the stockinette stitch appearing. And that was 3. Now, I will just show you this, starting off a purl row one more time. So we still slip stitch purlwise with yarn in front, but we don't go straight into the next stitch to purl. We bring the yarn around the needle to create the stitch. Okay, I will pause here and I will come back when I have completed my 6th row of stockinette. And here we are back. I've completed my 6th row of stockinette, and you can see the perfect edging showing now a lot better. You can see how it really does, I think, edge the project beautifully. Now, we are going to fold this down. Yes, we are. What will be useful to do this, if you've got them, is a I know what they're called, double pointed needles. I was looking at this thinking, what is it called? I sometimes think my brain has got a hole in it and words fall out. Now, what we are going to be doing is we are going to be taking this part of the top row and this part of the bump of the last garter stitch row, and we're going to knit them together. To make this easier, if you get this double pointed needle, or if you've got a circular needle, which might work better because you've got 204 stitches. I've only got a small sample here, so I can get away with a shorter needle. If you've got 204 stitches, just get a thinner cable needle if you've got one, and run it through like this. So you're picking up this bump, skipping the next bump, picking up this bump, and you'll see the bumps match with stitch. See, that's the one you're picking up. And that's just going to make it easier to join. So I'm going to go all the way along, picking up that stitch. Like I said, this is my first time doing this, believe it or not. I haven't even gotten this far in any of my previously lost videos, so it's a first time for me and you. Okay, now we don't want to worry about the last 2 stitches or the first stitch, because that's our border stitches. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do is just do my edge stitch. Damn these cords, I hate them. I hate the ones that have a memory. I really do. Okay, moan over. I'm not going to moan. All right. Slip stitch, yarn over. Now bring this up, and we're going to go through that, and through that, and we're going to knit. At the same time, that creates an extra stitch. And then we're going to take both that one and the bottom one off. Okay, let's do that again. We're going to take a stitch, go into it as if to knit, go into the top stitch as if to knit, and then we're going to knit. Pull through, pull off the top stitch, pull off the bottom stitch. And the next one. Pull off both, into that stitch, into the top stitch. And all I've done here is just folded it. Folded it so that the 2 needles are side by side. Oops, didn't grab the yarn. Oh, this is actually a lot easier than I thought it was going to be. Yay. Okay. Yay, she says, something easy for a change. Okay. Now you can see why I didn't increase. Had I increased, I would have had many more stitches in the top row than I have in the bottom row. And then I wouldn't have been able to match them up. I wouldn't have been able to fold it in half to create the ridge that I'm going to get. That is why we are going to, that's why we've done the ridge first, and why we're waiting until after the ridge to do our increases. Oh, I might have spoken too soon. About it being too easy. Okay. Can be a bit tricky pulling that yarn through, but if you take it slowly, nope. Hold it really tightly down so you can pull it through, and then loosen the slack. You don't want it too tight. You don't want to make these stitches really tight, but you do want to, sorry, okay, that's better. So I had a bit of a issue there. Okay, so so when you're going through, yeah, hold on to it nice and tight. That will make it easier to pull through those two stitches like that. Up you go again. Pull through, and there it is. Okay, almost to the end. These are quite pointy too. Now, a lot of people will say, oh, hate pointed needles because they hurt your finger, which they can do. What I tend to do, though, a lot of the time if I've got a pointy needle, is I don't push, I pull. And I'll show you what I mean. Won't use this finger at all. So I got my yarn, I put it nice and tight, and then I pull down. I pull back on the needle. Rather than push it down, you pull back on the needle, and then you're not sort of constantly push, push, push on the pointy end, getting a very sore finger. Pull through. A few more to go, and then we'll be able to see the results of our labour. If you can hear that, that is my cat cleaning her claws and pulling at them. I apologise. Okay, now don't panic. You have not made a mistake. Don't forget, these two are at border stitches. You've got 1 and 1. That is perfect. That's exactly what you need. Push that through. We can put away our cable needle or our DPN or our long cable needle. Oh dear, I'm sorry. Keep bashing things around. Okay, and we knit the last two together. Now we will see what you've got a ridge, just as we have. Now, cat, can you not sit on my... Oh dear, she says, yes, I'm going to sit on it. You cannot move me. We've got a ridge similar to our crocheted. This is pretty much the end of part 1. All you really need to do now is just work 2 rows in stockinette. So that's knit and then purl. And then we will be finished. So we're going to knit. And that will be the end of part 1. And here's where you might like to add your stitch markers. So you'll go, you need, what's hard to do, me work out the math, I'll work it out. But you will need to count 100 stitches from this end, or 101 stitches from this end, to get to your 104th stitch. You will place your stitch marker. The next stitch should be your 103rd, because you count it back from the other way. Place a stitch marker, and then keep going. I suggest you just wait until you finish the row, count from this end. You go 102, stitch marker, 13, stitch marker, and that's it. Count from this end, because this is obviously the front of our work. Okay, I'm going to go away after I've done this and actually create the full length, because, yeah, I haven't done that yet, as I have with the crochet, and I will show you that next time. And I will ask, which would you prefer? Please let me know in the comments. Do you want me to continue working on a shorter sample in the videos to show you, you know, what to do? Or would you rather me work on the full length one? Let me know. If I get no responses, I'll just continue doing it this way. I'll just assume that people are happy with this way. So purl around, and in the next part we will start our increases on either side of our middle stitch, so we can get our V shape happening. Okay, and don't forget we do knit the last two, even though it is a purl row. Okay. And there we are. So, yep, so 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 1, 1. So I'm going to place a stitch marker there, and there. I think, let me check, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. No, actually, I think I'll have to go across one more, because this will have 2 when I add a stitch, which will make it even. So, yeah, 12 on one side, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. Yep, that sounds about right. Okay, Thanks for watching. If you liked what you saw, please hit the like and subscribe, and make a comment in below as to whether or not you would rather me work on a smaller sample or the bigger one. Watch the videos in the description, especially the one about the perfect edges. And yep, we'll see you next time for part 2. Thank you. Goodbye.